Welcome back to Inside Politics here on KTN News. ODM leader Raila Odinga has backed the idea of a rotational presidency, urging Kenyans to embrace it. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta said the presidency should not be a preserve of two communities, a pronouncement that has continued to elicit much heated debate. Listen.
But as you know, Kenya is a multi-ethnic society. And because of this, you must be actually sensitive to the ethnic differences that we have in our country. In a place like in Switzerland, they have even what they call the rotating presidency. They have got the cantons, and the presidency moves from this region to the other, to the other.
Hii mjadala lazima tutabadilisha. Mujipange, mkuwe tayari. Kwa sababu nyinyi mnataka kutuuzia mambo ya makabila. Mahasla wa Kenya hawana biashara na makabila.
All right, this has been the latest debates into the presidency in this country in efforts to have what has been called political inclusivity. Is this the secret formula? Let me begin with you on this one, Cherotich. Can a rotating presidency work in this country?
Well, Ben, a rotating presidency can work if we have 482 years to wait for it to come around again. You know, I've said repeatedly that tribe is a smokescreen that is used to the advantage of those who would consolidate power forever. Tribe is never an issue until we start talking about who is in charge. And look, even as I speak now, Ben, let's be very clear. My name is Cherotich. People will say whatever it is I say is because I'm a Kalenjin or because I'm this or that or the other. Tribe has always been weaponized to hoodwink Kenyans into thinking that the reason that we have a crisis of leadership is because of ethnicity. Ethnicity is weaponized. Warriors are called. They fire arrows in the night. They hack off limbs. All kinds of things happen in the name of protecting your tribe. But when it boils down to the very, very basics, Ben, it is the tribe of the rich versus the tribe of the poor. And please, please, I have not mentioned hustler anywhere. I'm saying the tribe of the rich versus the tribe of the poor. That's what it boils down to. I said the other day on social media, I said, really, are you telling me that every single Kikuyu in Kenya, or Kalenjin for that matter, is wealthy and prosperous? Because there has been 57 years, yes, I agree, of Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Kikuyu, and then Kikuyu. If ethnicity was such an issue, why wasn't this resolved way back when it was independence? You see, so I look at it, and at some point, go to Nyamakima. Go to Nyamakima today and see, are these the same people who come apparently from Uhuru Kenyatta's tribe, whose livelihoods have been so thoroughly destroyed? We are talking about a president who is in his lane darkness, where the rain has beaten down hard on this lion, and yet he's trying to say it's time for people who are not Kikuyus to take charge of this country. Why didn't this occur to him way back in 2013? Why didn't it occur to his father? You see, so for me, as a Kenyan, I look and I see the fallaciousness of this argument, but it incites sentiments, it whips up sentiments. Every time I open my mouth, I'm told I must be part of the hustler camp, or I must be saying this because I'm Kalenjin and I'm privileged, and so on and so forth. I want us to empirically, systematically unpick the benefits that people from specific tribes have received or gotten because their president comes from this or that tribe. Okay, so let's do it alphabetically. Ameru, then Aembu. When are we going to get to Ilchamus? When are we going to get to, you know, this is crazy. And this type of discussion saying, oh, this happens in Switzerland, then I suggest people move to Switzerland and do what is happening in Switzerland. But in Kenya, we need to understand the weaponization of tribe. And we as Kenyans have to wake up. When we had post-election violence that rocked us to the core, we were shocked because we did not realize that we could be driven into such a space of whipped up ethnic sentiment. And then we wake up and say, but these are our neighbors. We have lived side by side our whole lives. So we have to, as Kenyans, elevate the discussion and understand that it's about content of character, not the color of skin. This Monday will be Martin Luther King's a birthday and it's a holiday and so on and so forth. And he said, let us not be judged by the color of our skin, but rather the content of our character. And in Kenya, we are regressing and saying, let us judge leadership by the tribe we come from. This is an insult to the electorate. We, as a democratic nation, deserve the right to pick. I have the right to vote for whomever I want to vote for, provided they stand on a platform that will bring me development, that will dignify my life, that will stand on all the principles of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. And do not tell me that now I am forced to vote for another Kalenjin, or I'm forced to vote for a Luya, or forced to vote for a Mkamba, or a Kikuyu, I will vote as a Kenyan for the person who I feel best brings development to me. And this is the message that we must spread. And this is the kind of myths, this rubbish that the political class, the big five that will be sitting up there trying to address their power issues and consolidate power at that top through BBI. These are the things we must challenge as Kenyans and look at one another. When I pay taxes, I pay taxes just like anybody else, whether no matter the tribe we come from. So we have to look at it that way. Our electricity bills, children learning under trees, our health, everything, that is not linked to our tribe. It is linked to a political class that has corrupted and disobeyed the Constitution of Kenya. And we should not be mismanaged as Kenyans to start going down the tribal pathway, because it is dangerous, it is a slippery slope, and will not end well for the ordinary in Kenya.
Thank you. Javas Bigambo. Raila Odinga made parallels to what happened in Switzerland, where there's a 7-member federal council whose chairmanship, changes from region to region. Would it work in Kenya, really?
Well, Ben, sitting in this chair this moment, I cannot disagree with William Cullen Bryant that truth crushed to earth will always rise again. The truth that is struggling to be crushed to earth is that because of the two communities that have held power for this long, that other tribes are suffering merely for that reason. Raila Odinga is a very honorable man, and he has made his own proposal and comparison that by the example of Switzerland, it's possible to have a rotational presidency in Kenya. And he's talked about regions. And Raila Odinga is a very honorable man. But the honorable man is not making really a very honorable remark with regard to what can work for Kenya. Factually speaking, let's face it, there is no country on earth that has got a rotational leadership or presidency based on tribe. No country on earth. Whatever is happening in Switzerland is not about ethnic groups taking the leadership or the presidency. Factually speaking, when you look at the example of Nigeria, which has got 250 tribes and about 500 languages spoken, has got a political discussion and understanding about the North and the South, not about ethnic groups and groupings. In Kenya today, we have got 43 tribes. I think 44 now, including, of course, I think, is it the Asians that were now embraced as a tribe in Kenya just before elections. Is it that the Hindus in Kenya, now that's a new tribe, they want the presidency? If they want it, what for? Is it that the Mijikenda want presidents in Kenya? And if they do, what for? Is it that the Iteso want presidents in Kenya? And if they do, what for? The Luo do not want the presidency. And here, I know and I understand the issue about political inclusivity. Having a rotational presidency does not in itself factor in inclusivity in our leadership. Today, with the ravages of corona, and too many people have died by way of statistics, I have not read anywhere, by the example of those statistics, that particular number of Kikuyus have died. And so corona is affecting Kikuyus much more than the Luos or than the Luyas or than the Kalenjins. I've not read such a thing. So why should we run to tribe when it comes to political issues? Today, far too many parents are unable to pay school fees for their children because of the economic decline and the nosediving that is now continuous. We're not seeing that parents from the Luo land are unable to pay school fees because of the tribal factor. So agreeing with the essence and the necessity of political inclusivity, which actually is urgent to me, and we are so late at it, the proposal to have a rotational presidency based, one, on ethnicity, and with due respect to His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, I think I disagree sincerely with his remark that pointed to two tribes having led. No tribe has led Kenya. We have had individuals, politicians, who are extracted from certain communities who have led Kenya for this period of years. And so, I think the kind of discourse that our leading politicians, if at all they are very keen to unite this country with regard to one of the items in the 9-point agenda, national cohesion and inclusivity, they must not give strength and a backbone to matters tribalism. So let us, for purposes of theorization, that agree that now we have got a rotational presidency based on tribes. Does it mean then that the moment we have got a Kisii president, his attention in service should be primarily 90% to 80% based on serving the Kisiis far more than other communities? Does it mean that if we have got a Kalenjin president, his attention should be the service of the Kalenjin community? No, that would be ridiculous. And that is why, if at all we elevate the discussion about presidency and leadership in this country, two communities, or based on communities, will be missing. Go to the world's largest democracy, India. It has got premiership. We have not had, even in theory alone, that India is thinking about rotational leadership of the premiership based on castes within that democracy. That in itself is a knife, a wedge being driven in the flesh of national existence and national cohesion, to the extent that national cohesion, by that direction, will remain so elusive.
All right. Kipchumba Karori, if you can hear me, what would this mean, or what does this discussion mean to Kenya as a democracy? Does it mean that we would be having what we call the negotiated democracy that we have seen in some parts of this country, in the north, to be specific, where they negotiate democracy in courts, from leadership positions moving from one clan to another? What would it mean for the Kenyan democracy?
Ben, you have to realize that even in negotiated democracies, the negotiation and the model itself is owned by the sovereigns. It is not a top-bottom kind of an arrangement. It is bottom-top. And it is the people themselves coming together and agreeing that in order to govern a certain place, this clan must allow a certain clan to rule. Those are what we call community-based kind of development models. And when we are addressing a nation like Kenya, which is a republican nation, and when you visit our chapter 9 of the Constitution, you will find therein lies the qualifications for one to be a presidential candidate in any election in this country. And the tribe ethnicity has never been a factor. But coming back to the discourse, and I respectfully, and I do recognize and respect Uhuru Kenyatta as the president, but I differ with him heavily on the discourse. This is that discourse that we call the below the barrel discourse. Why will a head of state take the nation down the tribal discussion in the first place? And then it must be remembered that this is the same president who has allowed ministers and permanent secretaries from a certain region of the country to be having meetings and discussing developments. What happens to the TESOs and the couriers of this country who have no minister or a permanent secretary? Who discusses their development? Therein is where the problem lies. It is because we have people in power who lack what we call ideology creativity. They cannot create the future. What they have to do is to dwell on the past. Coming back to the issue of rotational presidency, whereas it sounds like a good idea, but how do you implement it? How far can we go? We should not run to the idea before asking ourselves, what if this model was to be used on other things? Tomorrow, Ben, we have agreed, for example, for purposes of illustration, that we want a rotational presidency. And we open that Pandora's box, we go down the road. And tomorrow people say we want also land ownership to be rotational. How will we implement such a thing? It is a facade. This is a liberal democracy. It should be run on democratic credentials. And if leaders feel, or let's say, let me use the right term, if politicians feel that they lack ideas to run the country, what they should do is either consult people with great ideals or get out of the way. But coming back to the discourse, if today we were to just talk for purposes again of illustration, we have 44 tribes in this country. Of the 44, 12 tribes are what Moi created in what we call Kalenjin. There are 12. Of the 44, 18 are Luhya. Just take, for example, if today we were to run this country that way, for 60 years, if each president will run for 5 years, it will be under it will be in the same place in Kalenjin land currently. For 90 years, it will be within Luhya land. How fair will it be for Aduruma? And then again, for another 45, it will be in Mijikenda. We really need to come back and ask ourselves, what are the problems that this country faces? The problem is in terms of distribution of resources, resource allocation. And that is why we went to the county level. We went to the county way because the center was somehow skewed towards what we call macroeconomics, and most Kenyans can benefit from microeconomics. That is the discussion that we need to have, that which is the best model that we can get resources from the center without weakening those micro systems. And then maybe as finality on the issue is this: the best way to make sure that our leadership is effective is bringing the participatory leadership models. But the model we have currently is a model whereby I buy people, I become the president, and I live on tokenism. Tokenism cannot deliver us anywhere, and those are the discussions we need to have. Going forward, what we really need to have is we must continuously weaken the center while strengthening the far parts. If today we had a weak Nairobi and strong counties, the discussion going forward will be a better discussion. We are better off with 47 governors because each and every person comes with a different ideology than having one person at the center who is too powerful. The main purpose of devolution was for us to move away from discussing power at the tribal level. And what must be understood again, Ben, is this: the Kikuyu man ravaged with jiggers in Ndeia is suffering the same problems as a Tugen man ravaged with poverty in Ravine. The same problems affects the people who line up in Turkana. That what Kenyans think about mostly is poverty, not who is the president. You cannot for a moment assume that all Tugens, because Moi was a Tugen, have been presidents. There are problems there. Their sheep do not have, their goats have problem with their dental formula because of some weed that is growing there. How is that? How do you now bring and say they have been presidents? I think the discussion going forward should be, let us give the position to the best man or woman who has the idea of how this country can go back to where South Korea is. South Korea industrialized and Singapore, not because they rotated presidency, but because they changed their development models from consumption to production.
All right. Ishmael, do you think this is a conversation we should be having as a nation in 2021? And also, do you think that there's a way of having these conversations with the future in mind, rather than just focusing on what's happening in the now, the handshake, and the 2022 election, and what the different political sides are having?
Thank you, Ben. Ben, I agree entirely with my colleagues that we cannot have a tribal-based discussion and a debate at the year 2021. We are a fairly old nation now, and we should be discussing on ideas, on policies, on development, and on what can be done by anybody at the helm to deliver services. Having said that, Ben, 10 plus 10 is 20. There is no number between 19 and 20. How is it that it is very difficult for a Kisii person to become president? Have you asked yourself that? I mean, how is it that it is so difficult for somebody from Dorobo tribe to become president? So when Uhuru Kenyatta said that hata mimi ninaweza kusimama hapa na nikasema, you must understand the context. The context is that the deputy president in the process of campaigning has made it very clear there is us against them. Musitulete, mujipange. This kind of talk is not only threatening, but it is in a way actually trying to tell you that the country is divided into two classes, the haves and have-nots. And this is not false, it is true. So the question then, which can be answered by Raila Odinga coming up and saying, well, I don't mind rotational presidency, that simply means that people are not contented. The people who go to State House command and control huge resources of the country. How do they distribute these resources? Do they distribute them equitably? At least since independence, the answer is no. So who has become more rich than the other one? Obviously, it is the houses that have been leading the country, the regions that have led this country in form of their son or daughter. Well, it has only been the sons who have led. They are the ones who are making it. They have the money. They are big people in the stock market. They have the wealth. They have built. You can count that by walking downtown in Nairobi. So why is it so difficult then, Ben, for anybody from another region who was not in State House, how is it that they do not have that much? And the answer has been found to be that when people go to State House, they control resources. Therefore, for me, we cannot argue about rotating the presidency on the basis of tribes. Howsoever, we must answer the question, why is there a narrative now that we are hustlers and they are dynasties, and therefore so it is simply a political approach to winning the State House. And once somebody wins the State House, I recently asked, what practicable method will, for example, the people ascending to the presidency use even to distribute resources equitably? And you realize that all answers I'm getting are actually mere voting. You will see that people are saying, please don't crucify this person, or this one is not good. But what are the practical means anybody ascending to office will use to make sure that it does not matter what, I will take resources to Mumias and I will make sure those people are going to enjoy the resources of this country? Because of this, Ben, there are now people who are coming up and saying we need to rotate the presidency. And there are those who are saying, no bother, don't rotate the presidency. You only need to look at the hustlers. How are you going to benefit the hustlers without affecting those who have earned their money? To cap that and to end this, I want to mention this, Ben Kitili. There are poor people in the United States of America and in Britain and in the European countries. We have poor people. Poor people are not limited to Nyamakima or to Kisii or to Kisumu or to whichever. We have poor all over the world. And do not deceive anyone that if I do this for you, you automatically will be rich. It also depends about, mental state of a person, their dreams, what they want to do. Even if we give wheelbarrows to about 10 million people today, they all will not actually come back with 10 bob every day. No. There are some people who will not come with any money, and those who will bring 1,000 per day. Therefore, we cannot deceive the hustler nation that they will be rich automatically just by being given something.
Good things you say, Bwana Akili, but we're out of time for this. But it just begs the question then, how do we deal with the issue of tribalism head-on then? Just tell me that in 30 seconds. Like, there are so many problems in the air. How do you deal with this major one?
Number one, we need to recognize education. We recognize economic stability. If I am satisfied in my house and I have enough food for my children and my family, I don't care who is going to State House. Therefore, we need to less politic and completely head on towards economic development so that we have enough in our own families. Thereafter, we should build a nation through education, through proper messaging and narratives, that it really doesn't matter who is in the State House if you have food in the table. And therefore, people being appointed to offices should not mistreat people, whether it is hawkers or the hustlers so-called, in town and everywhere where they are trying to do their business. the aspect of protecting the small man, quote unquote, the poor and the marginalized, should be the leading light, not trying to come together in the name of inclusivity and then create wealth for a certain few people. That one, I agree that we should not be tribal, but we should protect the small man, yes.
Thank you. We shall come back to wind up on all this we're discussing. Let's now take another quick commercial break here on the show. Don't go too far. This is Inside Politics on KTN News. When we come back, we shall be taking a look at some of Chief Justice Emeritus David Maraga's final remarks in his exit interviews, what he did say, hard-hitting interview really, especially on the executive. Stay with us.